Alright, thank you all for this event. Now I'd like to invite the reflective speaker from the office.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, my week speaker told you that I would take care of the entertaining, but I think I've done enough of that in my Deputy Prime Minister's speech, and I know that my image as a good debater is quasi-inexistent, but I would like to try my best in my reply speech to try to boost that image, or at least create it. Now, so today, in my reply speech, I would like to identify the problem, then base the two models where they actually solve the problem, and then talk about the additional benefits that could be derived. Now, first of all, the main problem, something that both teams conceded, was there is heavy addicted people and that we have to cure them. Now, the thing is, there are three levels of problems. First is that they have a mental illness. They have reality confusion. Secondly, they spend too much time online or related to or thinking about online games. And third, there is a social harm. So let's try to use the models that both teams came up with and actually take a look if it solves the problem. So let's start with a government case. Well, their system was basically a stamina system. So does it solve problem number one, confusion of reality? It doesn't really solve the confusion of reality because that confusion of reality just suddenly doesn't stop when you turn that computer game off. As I have mentioned, according to people I know, well, they keep thinking of the game. They replay it in their mind. It doesn't mean that since you're not playing the game physically, doesn't mean that your mind thinks about it and has a mental confusion. So, moving on to problem number two, spending too much time online games. Well, Mr. Speaker, well, I've already mentioned that we can make multiple IDs, and also through the POI, I think everyone practically knows that leveling up isn't much of a burden, especially to the mentally addicted people who just love to play that game, who are just wanting to play that game. So number three, about social harm. Well, stamina system doesn't really promote a physically healthy society. Mr. Speaker, if you tell people who are addicted to computer games and just shut their computer off and just tell them to, does that automatically mean that these people will just suddenly say, oh, I want to play soccer, oh, I want to meet people outside? No, there are people who just stay at home. Why? Because they're, number one, they have a mental illness, so there's a confusion of the reality. So they aren't who they are, they don't know who they are. So they have a difficulty encountering new people who tell them, you're not Mr. Prince, you're like this poor KU student. Anyway. Poor SNU student. Anyways, so it doesn't really help, it doesn't make the society a healthier one. Now let's move on to the model that our side suggested from the opposition side. We said that we would provide mental counseling, and let's try to identify if this works with the problem. Well, number one, mental illness. Of course, how would you solve mental illness except for, I don't know, counseling? It is practically the best way to solve mental illness. You consult people, make sure that their mental status is overcome, and they become normal citizens as well. So not only are we just going to passively shut down their computers from a faraway place, we will engage them, we will confront them, tell them what they're doing is not what they're supposed to do. Number two, too much time on it. Well, Mr. Speaker, if you're not addicted anymore to the online game, why would you spend time on it? Mr. Speaker, by counseling and overcoming the addiction, well, not only will you decrease the time you play on online games, you could actually eliminate playing time on online games. And then third of all, the social harms. Well, many people, the social harm is that people do not go outside, basically what came from the government side. Well, if you solve this mental illness, if you do not have any more that problem between who am I Prince or someone else, well, you will be able to engage with other people even though they think that, well, you're not the Prince Charming. Well, we say that it will facilitate people to actually go outside, enjoy the weather, especially at a lovely day like today. Now, moving on to the benefit that the opposition additionally has provided, something that the proposition actually conceded. There is no economic sacrifice. The game industry will not have to suffer dramatically. Also, there will be no problem related to the cash trading or the black market cash trading, something that the proposition didn't even bother to deal with. So, Mr. Speaker, at the end of the day, not only do we solve the problem, but we also provide additional benefits. So, leave the characters alone and target the users. We oppose.